Hello and welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims. These are the top diabetes stories and headlines happening now. In the News is brought to you by Edgepark. Simplify your diabetes journey with Edgepark. Our top story this week, a new CGM from Medtronic gets approval in Europe. It's called Simplera. It's an all-in-one disposable CGM. The company says no finger sticks and no overtape, which is new for Medtronic CGMs. Simplera is integrated with the InPen smart insulin pen system. Medtronic will begin a phased launch in Europe beginning in October. Simplera is indicated for ages 2 and up. It's compatible with iOS and Android. It's not approved yet in Europe for Medtronic's automated insulin delivery system for their pumps, and it is not approved at all yet by the FDA. I have reached out to Medtronic, and we'll learn more soon. A small study and a long way to go here, but a weekly dose of semaglutide helped 7 out of 10 patients newly diagnosed with type 1 stop taking insulin. Semaglutide is the key ingredient in Ozempic, approved for type 2, and Wegovy, approved for weight loss. It's thought to also tamp down the inflammation that can lead to destruction of insulin-producing cells. In this study, all 10 patients were taking mealtime and long-acting insulin. After 3 months, all of them came off the fast-acting, and 7 stopped the basal. Much more study is needed here. Interestingly, Ozempic's maker, Novo Nordisk, noted it didn't sponsor this study and is not pursuing its own trials of semaglutide for type 1 diabetes. An older diabetes drug seems to also now help with muscle atrophy and help older people bounce back faster from injury or illness. Researchers from the University of Utah Health found that metformin has surprising applications, they say, on a cellular level. These findings published in the journal Aging Cell. They said when participants took metformin during bed rest, they had less muscle atrophy. And then during the recovery period, they also had less fibrosis or excess collagen on the muscle, which can make it harder for that muscle to properly function. Researchers at MIT are working on a device that may help produce insulin for people with type 1 diabetes. This is, again, very early, no human studies here yet, but it's a small implantable device that could carry hundreds of thousands of insulin-producing islet cells. Theoretically, this would mean no need for immunosuppressive therapy. Right now, people who do islet cell transplants need to stay on those kind of drugs for the rest of their lives. MIT researchers say the device kept glucose levels stable for at least 1 month in mice. Long way to go before human trials can start. Weight Watchers and Abbott announced their new app for people with diabetes. This is a Weight Watchers, now called WW app, that integrates the use of a Freestyle Libre. The app helps people with diabetes understand how food and activity impact their glucose levels, say the companies. WW had a team of nutrition and behavioral science experts design the plan. They say it has already demonstrated success in helping people with type 2 lose weight and lower their A1Cs. New caution from the American Academy of Pediatrics about keto diets for young people, especially kids with type 1 diabetes. I would urge you to read this study. I'll link it up in the show notes, just like I do with every other story I talk about in the news. I say that because there's a lot going on here. These doctors aren't saying you should never give kids a low-carb diet. In fact, they're really careful to break down the difference between what they call low-carb, very low-carb, and ketogenic. And I thought this part was fascinating. They also talk about surveying via social media adults and parents of kids with type 1 about low or very low-carb diets. Respondents, quote, reported excellent glycemic control, but poor relationships with diabetes care providers associated with distrust and feeling judged about their diabetes management decisions, end quote. These doctors say they need a lot more study about growth and development in kids who use low-carb diets because of diabetes. They want to look at risks and benefits in the long term. Right back to the news, but first, Diabetes Connections in the News is brought to you by Edgepark. Life is busy. Managing diabetes is a daily commitment. Edgepark can help you say goodbye to the worry of managing your diabetes supplies with a variety of cutting-edge insulin delivery systems from brands like Medtronic and Tandem. Plus, Edgepark accepts most insurance plans and handles the paperwork, so you can simplify your life, your diabetes care, and your budget in one click. Go to diabetes-connections.com, click on the Edgepark logo, and learn more. I don't usually talk about stocks when it comes to diabetes companies, but I thought this was interesting. Apparently last week, some of the big companies, Dexcom, Tandem, Insulet, closed lower one day following a report that Apple named a new head for its project to develop a glucose monitor that, quote, doesn't require a skin prick for a blood sample. Bloomberg reported that Tim Millett, who is the VP of Platform Architecture, is now heading the project, which, by the way, is known as E5, apparently. And the plan would be to add blood glucose monitor capability to the Apple Watch. Nothing else seems to have changed. Apple is pretty quiet about these kinds of developments. Lots of rumors out there, lots of companies chasing this, but we'll know one of them is sort of for real when we see the clinical trials start happening. And also with Dexcom, I want to let you know that they are extending their first ever name, image, likeness program, NIL program, for college athletes with diabetes. We talked about this last year. I talked to one of the athletes, a Yale lacrosse player. Dexcom U is what they call it, and it's intended to celebrate college athletes with diabetes and inspire people with diabetes who have athletic dreams of their own. The Dexcom U 2023 roster consists of 20 athletes, including 11 new teammates, they call them, who all rely on the CGM to track their glucose levels and manage their diabetes. And I will put that list in the show notes. On the podcast next week, I'm working with the Diabetes Link. They used to be called the College Diabetes Network. We did a really great panel about off to college. I was paired up with educators and experts answering parents' questions. And I'm going to bring that to you. That panel was a lot of fun and worth putting into a podcast episode. That's next week. The episode just passed was with an incredible woman. Sarah Janin is an outdoor guide, and she does ice climbing and rock climbing, and she's got some really big goals. She's training to be an international guide. But she had a really rough start with type 1. She was diagnosed at 2, and it was back before home blood glucose meters. She was so open and honest and so inspiring. So I hope you get a chance to tune into that episode as well. And that's it for In the News for this week. If you like it, please share it. I'm Stacey Sims. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you back here soon.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.